Well, a very happy Friday and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin and today is January 9th of 2026. On today's episode, we get you guys ready for the weekend world of sports. It actually began yesterday as Miami took on Ole Miss in the college football semifinal playoffs. It continues tonight as Oregon takes on Indiana, where the winner will go on and compete and hopefully win the college football championship game. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Smackdowns tonight from Berlin. The biggest event coming out of SmackDown is going to be the WWE Championship match between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre in a 3 stages of hell match. The NFL wildcard weekend gets underway tomorrow with a total of 6 matchups over the weekend. The winners will head on to the next round of the NFL playoffs. So we'll give you our predictions, our insights, and get you guys ready for the weekend. To kick things off, I do want to make a special announcement, an updated announcement for Enlighten Studios' upcoming theater production called Grassroots. It was confirmed yesterday due to scheduling conflicts that Grassroots had to make altercations to their performance dates. Grassroots is still expected to take place at the end of February, but will now hold the dates beginning February 27th to March 1st. Then they will return from March 6th to March 8th. Those are key dates to mark on your calendar. So if you're one of those people who decided to went out and grab tickets to Grassroots, if you got them in the first weekend, just give Enlighten Studios a message on their social media page. They'll reach out to you, let me know, and we can best work either rescheduling you your tickets or giving you a refund. Like I said, you don't want to miss out this performance. It's about family, faith, forgiveness, and the courage to face the truth in a situation placed in the 90s where a black family moves into an all-white neighborhood and they encounter and how they see truths from the neighborhood revealed. So get your tickets today by visiting tickettailor.com. They've also included a child price at $15 that is currently being updated on their website. That it will be in the link in the description below. So I saw this story earlier this week and I thought it was kind of funny to me. And I spent some time, I was going to share it yesterday, got caught up in the stuff that I was talking about, but I wanted to share it today. And the sports report that I'm going to reveal is about the Athletics. The Athletics, who were originally from Oakland, they ended up moving to West Sacramento for the next couple years as they await a stadium to be built for them in Las Vegas. Just like the Raiders a couple years ago, we see this take place for the Athletics. But last year, the Athletics continued their process by filing a trademark patent. And it came back that the trademark patent was denied mainly due to misunderstanding of the purpose of the name. They didn't want people to incorporate the name Athletics. So it's tied along to the Las Vegas Athletics and to the Vegas Athletics. And so after reading this article, I was just kind of pondering over myself that the Athletics have a couple of different options. One of them, which they're going to probably do, is request another application in a couple of months and hope for the best, but they may be faced with a ultimate decision. What name do they go by? Do they have to change the name Athletics, or do they change the front end, which would be in Las Vegas or Nevada? And that I think is kind of funny because there was a story that came out earlier this week. I don't know the truth to the severity of the story, but whether or not I find it kind of comical that there was a dive bar in Oakland that trademarked the name the Las Vegas Athletics, trying to prevent the Athletics to obtaining the rights to the name. And to me, I find it comical because it does one of two things. Either it signs this dive bar up for, if this is true, by the way, it signs the dive bar up to receive a substantial amount of money to sell the rights to the names. Or what it does, it, forces it puts that one more piece on top of the plate for the athletics and the organization when they eventually move. Now, they're expected to move in 2028. The stadium is currently being constructed, and so plans are still according to set. But I found that funny. Look, at the end of the day, ownership does what they want to do in baseball, in football, in any sport. It doesn't matter about what the fans think. It doesn't matter about what the fans say. It doesn't matter about what the fans do. Ownership will do what is best for business and for what's best for their financial attributes in their pockets. We saw a few years ago the athletic fans, the fan base, show their frustration when the A's decided to leave. Just like the Raiders showed their frustration when the Raiders decide to up and leave. And the fans have the right. You build a community within a city that supports the athletics, win or lose. Same goes for the Raiders. And one of the forks in the road is simply, do you invest into a new stadium in Oakland? Do you pack up and move thinking, who else is going to give you a stadium? And when you decide to pack up and move, no matter whether you like it or not, the fan base has this image that you're abandoning us. An attempt to possibly save baseball in Oakland, which they're just a hop, skip, and a jump away from San Francisco and the Bay Area, but that's still not the same. The fans showed up and showed out to athletics games throughout the year, but that didn't do much. And they have every right to be. And, maybe the rest of the community, maybe the rest of the, fan base around the world for just baseball or football alone was like, that's not a big deal. But it's a huge deal when a team that has grown their roots in your city has advertised and promoted and made it about you. It is a big deal when they up and leave. I've dealt with it myself. San Diego fan, born and raised in Mira Mesa, grew up only knowing the Chargers and the Padres. It took me 13, 14 years before I even realized that there was a whole league outside of the San Diego that you got to maintain and keep up to date with, especially in today's era of sports. Then we get the news that the Chargers were up and leaving. And it's like, why? Because you want a new stadium and not play at Qualcomm or SDSU, Snapdragon, whatever you want to call it, where there's so much history, there's decades of history. And it's like, it upset me. When they packed up and they moved up north to Inglewood and to be called the Los Angeles Chargers, where my entire life I was, embedded. We hate LA. It's beat LA, right? That was the concept. We hated the Dodgers. We hated any team coming out of Los Angeles, unless it's the Lakers. And we wanted San Diego to always beat them. Same thing for the Chargers. When Oakland came down, we wanted to beat Oakland. It was our division rival in a hindsight. So that provoked me to get up and move and jump onto a different ship to become a Rams fan. Moving out here to Ohio, it's now a Bengals fan. My point is that I was upset. I've experienced it, and I think majority of the people can experience a similarity in this situation where a team that you've grown up to watch has gotten up and moved. For me, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to hear the stories about possibly seeing Kansas City Chiefs moving from Kansas City, Missouri to Kansas City, the state. And then, then the story about Chicago possibly moving to Indiana. And I'm furious and I'm upset for the fans to be upset. I'm supportive of that decision. Why, you don't get to build and, I think, look, it's one of those situations that until I actually see it happen, I'm not going to believe it, right? Until I see the Athletics, whether or not they change their name, they go into Las Vegas and they now finally play baseball in Las Vegas, I don't believe it. Until I see Kansas City move to Kansas, the Chiefs move to Kansas, then I won't believe it. Same thing with the Bears. There's so much history. for the Chiefs, for example, they just got through this so-called dynasty where they've dominated the AFC West and the AFC for the past, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. The Chicago Bears, Soldier Field, the rivalry games in the cold and the blizzard and the snow, up and moving to Indiana. I just can't wrap my head around it first and foremost, but then I'm like, well, what are the reasons behind it? And for Kansas City and the Chiefs, it's, well, they're going to get a new stadium out of it. I am baffled about a lot of these things that we take for granted to be in our city. Cincinnati fans can say the same thing. It was not too long ago when the Castellini saying, hey, you know what? You don't appreciate us. We're going to up and just move. And look at the rich history that Cincinnati has embedded, or that the Reds have embedded in the city of Cincinnati, just to get up and move. And where to move to? What? Columbus, Dayton, Indiana? That it doesn't make logical sense. So I feel for the fans in Oakland. I still feel for them. It doesn't make it. I don't hate the Chargers. I don't like the ownership. And because of those decisions, I just don't support the Chargers nearly as much as I would. I'm a Rams fan at first. If the Chargers could see some success, sure. I mean, I'm not going to go out there and buy the Justin Herbert jerseys after they win the AFC Championship and jump on that bandwagon. No, I did that for the Rams and I remember that day, it was last night. I instantly bought the Rams jersey and I bought the Bengals jersey. It has the Super Bowl or championship logo on it. It was immediately following the game's victories. And, I was like, cool. I got to have both of them because these are two teams that I'm supporting, that I'm a fan of. One by, where I'm currently residing at. The second one by, homegrown, because I've had to, that was my opportunity to jump to a different team and I chose to. And so they both got a chance to be in the Super Bowl. So I got those jerseys. I'm not going to do that with the Chargers, but same thing goes for the Athletics. I don't necessarily dislike the Athletics. It's hard to support the ownership's decision when you're just walking away from years of, service to Oakland. So I don't know, it's kind of that quote unquote karma to say. It's kind of that laugh in the face. If they can't take the name Athletics and be the Las Vegas Athletics, they can't be the Vegas Athletics, that they would have to change the athletic name to something else. I kind of, would laugh because it's comical to me. But I thought that was a fun little story heading into this weekend that I've seen multiple times on social media. NCAA football tonight on ESPN at 7:30, the kickoff between Oregon and Indiana. The winner of this game will advance to the NCAA football championship game, as they will be taking on Miami, who beat Ole Miss in a nice, good, close game last night. And, I predicted that Ole Miss would have won, and I'm going to stick with my prediction that Indiana's going to win this game, and it's going to be Miami, Indiana. And I like the diversity. I like that these are two teams that just the four teams overall weren't really in this picture last year, maybe besides Oregon. So I crave new teams in NCAA football, and so we're seeing it. So Miami's back in the spotlight. They'll find out tonight. Either they face Oregon or they're going to face Ole Miss. Gosh, rolling right through that program. All right, WWE Smackdown premieres tonight for the U.S. states. It will be on the USA Network at 8 p.m. for international viewership. It will be available on 2 p.m. and that'll be available on Netflix. So wherever you're watching, it's going to be taking place at the Uber Arena in Berlin. And so it's like, I know Raw, for example, because it's, they're on Netflix. They're actually going to have Raw at 2:00 on Monday, which it's around the time frame when I do these recordings of these episodes to publish on at 7:00 at night. And I do that so it can give me enough time to edit and get the final product up there. And I post it for 7:00 to kind of wind down. Hey, this is something that you could tune into and listen to. Maybe you're getting off of work around that time. But, Raw's going to be concluded by the time of the show, but I'm not going to have the episode officially recorded until before, I'll have the recordings of the show done before then. So we wouldn't really be able to discuss what is taking place until Tuesday next week. It's the only thing that I'm not a big fan of when it comes down to these international venues. But with that being said, we have a couple of highlighted things to note for SmackDown tonight, and we'll get into the discussion about the main event. Now, don't forget, it is a 3-hour episode. SmackDown has gone back to 3 hours, so there is some stuff that you have to, in between that you have to endure, but there is going to be an 8-man tag team match as the Wyatt Six takes on MTF, which we know both teams. We know what they're capable of, and you got Solo Sikoa, JC Mateo, Tama Tonga, and Tala Tonga, and Tonga Loa. Man, a lot of Tongas here. They're all going to be going up against Bo Dallas, Eric Rowan, Joe Gacy, Dexter Loomis. It's going to be a brawl. It's going to be a brawl, and what not best to do it other than in Berlin. We have Trick Williams taking on Ray Phoenix in singles competition. And then also our main event, our anticipated match heading into SmackDown tonight is going to be the undisputed WWE Championship match where Cody Rhodes defends his title against Drew McIntyre in 3 stages of hell match. So let's review the 3 stages of hell. What is that per se? Because we don't see it often in the WWE, but what is given and how is this a regular match? So a Falls Count Anywhere match and a steel cage match. Okay, sorry, something loading up there and finally got done downloading. So we will see the 3 stages of of hell match. Things like Fall Count Anywhere, steel cage. There's steel cage. Falls Count. Is there an ambulance match in this as well? Maybe? No, that's not what it is. Let me find out. I want to get the right information here. All right, so it's a standard match. It's a street fight, Fall Count Anywhere, and then a steel cage match. So every match is designed to add a stipulation that is just a little bit more in depth than the first one. Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes have seen each other before. Doesn't matter who wins the first one. It matters who wins the second one, and it matters who wins the third one. But I always look at the bigger picture. So I want to look at the bigger picture first and then come narrow it down. So the bigger picture is, what does the WWE have in store for WrestleMania? I know the road to WrestleMania doesn't begin for another couple of weeks. WrestleMania is in a couple months, but everything we do from here on out has some sort of say in the outcome of what is going to be presented at WrestleMania. So the question I ask myself is, who will be better representing the WWE Championship in a storyline for heading into WrestleMania? Is that Cody Rhodes or is that Drew McIntyre? And up until maybe last Friday, when we saw Randy Orton return, I would say, let's change things up and let's put the title on Drew McIntyre. But a little fan inside me, as a little childhood fan, wants to see a WrestleMania match between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. Wouldn't you? Which would mean that Cody Rhodes would have to hold on and retain this title and go through hell against Drew McIntyre. At the same time, though, the title, Drew McIntyre losing once again, for me, is a missed opportunity. He hasn't had a championship run in front of a crowd at the top of the division. Because when he won it, it was during the pandemic. And so before last week, I was calling for some change in the WWE. Let's shake up the year. Let's have a change, and let's be able to show some interesting, all right, what's going to happen next moments. But come last Friday and come with the results of Monday, it almost seems too predictable to see Cody Rhodes walking away with the victory. Now, whether he does that cleanly, whether he uses outside assistance, whether there's somebody else ready to attack him, that's a different story. But we're here to honestly watch the match and be impressed because we don't see the 3 stages of hell. And that's what I'm excited for. You're going to have a standard match, and if it doesn't matter who comes out on top, the bottom line is that you will have a winner, hopefully, because they could both get disqualified or counted out. Then you go into a street fight where it's a falls count anywhere, which they'll take it all around the arena, hopefully backstage and more. The more the merrier. And then if they survive that, they got to get back to the ring and have themselves a steel cage match. Now, if you've seen anything like this before in the WWE, feel like you kind of know, hey, I guess we could see things be more predictable. We see things more limited. And I'm not a big fan of that. If you're going to have a falls count anywhere, make it a falls count anywhere. Don't make it inside the ring. Don't make it outside the ring. Make it up at the ramp. Make it out there in the crowd. Make it backstage. I don't care. Make it outside for all I care. But make it a falls count anywhere. I think that's one of the most depressing, underappreciated stipulations that we use today that doesn't catch its true meaning anymore. A falls count anywhere, because you don't have to be pinned in the ring. You don't have to submit in the ring. You get pinned or you get submitted in anywhere. And so why not utilize that? Why not take that to the next level? Because it elevates the outcome and the precipitation of that match that much more. The more you get into, the crowd, when you take it places, use objects that you wouldn't normally use in this match. And then we get down to the steel cage, where if we get to the third and final one, which we will, it will be inside a close. And the only way to win is pinfall, submission, or escape. So here's how I think it's going to go down. I think Cody Rhodes gets the standard win. I think then Drew McIntyre beats the living hell out of Cody Rhodes and picks up the second win. But then the time it takes to get Cody Rhodes in the ring, get that cage down and locked and ready to go, that steel cage is going to be a short match. It's going to be a sweet match. And Cody Rhodes will find a way to win and retaining the title. Now, I believe, I believe, and I'm still a fan of, based off of Monday results, I still believe in some sort of change. I was not a fan of Braun Breaker losing to CM Punk, only because I don't think it does justice to the vision. It doesn't do justice to the tomorrow superstars today. It doesn't do justice to Braun Breaker's work and ethic, of promo cutting, of in-ring ability, of his destruction over the last couple weeks. And I feel like it cuts him off at the knees and holds him back. That's what I believe in. But maybe WWE has another idea. I think more so the fact that it was a clean win, instead of someone costing Braun the match, someone, getting involved to affect an outcome of the match. Because the Vision, Penta, Ray, and all, that stuff that happened early on did not have zero effect in the outcome of the match. So I would like to see some sort of change. But in order to see some sort of change, I do feel we would have to find a new target to put on Cody's back. Take that title away from him and have that match one-on-one. Now, could it be Randy? Could it be somebody else? These are all speculations. And these are left field speculations. I don't anticipate anything like that happening. I guess the one thing that I'm going to take away from this experience this week and watching these two matches, if Cody Rhodes retains his title, is that there was zero progress, zero movement in the story of either story, both Raw and on SmackDown, for these titles. That's it. Zero progress. You just wasted the last 6 to 8 weeks of building this up, having that house invasion with Drew and Cody, and I feel like there's zero progress being made. But I do see, if Monday Night Raw was any indication, I do see Cody Rhodes picking up a victory. All right, let's wrap up and dive into our wild card weekend round of the NFL. I'm going to kind of go over the list and give you a quick preview of who I think is going to walk away victorious. On Saturday at 4 p.m. on Fox, we have the Rams taking on the Panthers at 4:30. At 8 p.m. on Amazon, we have Amazon Prime, I believe, is Packers versus the Bears at Soldier Field. On Sunday, we have a triple header at 1 o'clock on CBS. We have the Bills and Jaguars. At 4:30 on Fox, we have the Niners and Eagles. On NBC, we have at 8 o'clock the Chargers and the Patriots. And then on Monday, we have at 8:15 on ABC, we have the Texans and the Steelers. Every year, there is this underdog team that you would like to see advance and at least have go somewhere in the playoffs. In the NFC, my underdog team has to be the Carolina Panthers. I am still shocked and impressed to see what Bryce Young and this Carolina Panthers team has been able to pull off in recent weeks in the back half of this season. Now, given credit, you have to thank to a lot about the Buccaneers and their failure at the end of this past season. They allowed the Panthers to kind of sweep right in. And if I'm not mistaken, they're the only team here that does not have a 10-plus win season. As a matter of fact, they have a losing record, and they still made the playoffs. With them being an underdog team, they, for me, become a fan favorite of I at least want to see them advance to the next round. They're at home, and they're facing a Rams team who did not expect, based off of the injuries that lurked around Matthew Stafford, and they did not expect to be a playoff team at all. And they walk away with 12-5 record. So the bigger question is, and this is what a wild card game is intense for, does that season hype that Bryce Young and that the Panthers have had this back half of the season, does that carry over into the wild card weekend? You don't have a week bye. You're just continuing the momentum going. But unfortunately, the Panthers lost, if I'm not mistaken, they lost the last 2 weeks of the regular season. Yeah, they lost 27-10 against the Seahawks at home. And then they lost to the Buccaneers. Yeah, they lost 16-14. I feel like those losses play an effect of how the outcome is going to be. I want to keep something at float here when we talk about this. Playoffs are completely different than the regular season. There is a reason why I'm also saying this. Because the Rams have faced back at the last week of November and lost 31-28 in Carolina. And so I say that because when you look at this game and you look back at the game just about 6 weeks ago, there is a case to be claimed that with the momentum that the Panthers are able to secure a division title, this game is going to be held at Bank of America, Stadium at home in Charlotte, North Carolina. The argument would probably be that the Panthers have the upper advantage. They have home field advantage. They beat the Rams 31-28 back during the regular season, and they should be able to win. And I understand that. But that's not going to be the situation. This is playoff mode, right? Teams have been able to turn those switches on and off throughout the course of the season. Or, we've seen it, baseball, football, it doesn't matter what the records are. Even the Chiefs did it. Well, they didn't really worry about how they performed during the regular season because they knew that the postseason was where they had to perform the best at. So, with that being in mind, and with all that in consideration, according to CBS Sports, the Rams have a 10.5 over on the Panthers. And I do believe that the Panthers would walk away with this. After you look, like I said, you go back to the preseason, Matthew Stafford, questionable of how he's going to play. This defense just explodes. This defense embarks and it goes without showing that this team is capable of going the extra distance. And for me, the Rams are one of my favorite teams, not because they are my favorite team, but they are a team that I expect to have themselves to go pretty far in this playoff. So I have the Rams winning on Saturday. We jump to the second game between the Packers and the Bears. And let's jump into, this is what I wanted to see. The Bears have had some impressive wins here lately, right? 6, 8, 10, 12. All right, so let's go back. How far do we go back? Here we go. So the Bears got off to a slow start, but their success this year started back with the Cowboys, beat them 31-14. Then they mustered out a 25-24 win over the Raiders. Same results against the Commanders, both games on the road. Beat the Saints, lose to the Ravens, but that's expected. Beat the Bengals, and that's where you could kind of feel like, hey, the Bears have something going for them. But we get down towards this back end, and we get down to division play. Packers won game 1. It was in Lambeau Field. This was earlier on, right? Then 2 weeks later, the Bears beat the Packers 22-16 at home on overtime. Packers have lost the last 2 games. To me, the Bears have lost the last 2 games. To me, Chicago is still fresh in this, but there's a lot of hype. If the Panthers weren't in the playoffs, I would have had Chicago as a underdog team this postseason. So they're 1-1. It's good competition. They're at Soldier Field. And this is a really tough game to really decide who you want to win. I have an acquaintance that does some business, that I'm doing some business with, and he's a Bears fan. He's hyped up, excited for the weekend. And he's rooting for the Bears, and I'm almost convinced. He almost has me convinced to root for the Packers and the Bears in this situation. The Bears are 11-6. They have shown they don't have the over on this game, which kind of scares me, but it's going to come down to probably within a field goal, in my opinion. But as I mentioned, every team, this is playoffs, regular season goes out of the way. What happens in the postseason stays in the postseason. I think what sucks about this situation, which can be said about the Jaguars and the Bills, all this is carrying momentum. It's been a while since we've seen the Bears consistently in the playoffs. It's been a while since we've seen the Jaguars consistently in the playoffs. We know that the Packers are consistently in the playoffs, and that's why it's easier to say let's root for the Packers, because they have the advantage with the playoff experience. I have to choose the Packers in this one, although I would be excited to see if the Bears can win. Caleb Williams is getting this taste all for the first time. He has to be able to continue to explode. Have they found that missing piece? The Packers is a good start to test in the postseason, because then they would also have home field advantage. You know what? No. I'm going with the Bears in my prediction this one. I think the Bears are going to win, and they're going to advance to the divisional championship. Now, just a key note into this. First weekend's all NFC. First Saturday game is NFC, and then second game is NFC. We have the number 7 seed and the number 2 seed. So if the Bears win, they will host either the number 3 or 4 seed or 5 seed. But if the Packers win, they would automatically go to Seattle to face the Seahawks. And then it would come down to the winner of the Rams and the Panthers game that will go on to face either the 49ers and the Eagles. So just kind of an understanding of that outline. On Sunday, we have triple header. The Bills take on the Jaguars. And it's going to be the Bills. Here's the problem with the Bills right now is I think it's going to be their ground game. They're going to have to control the short range of field playing farther. The Jaguars, they got to be explosive. They got to maintain explosiveness heading into this game. And does that roll over into a wild card win for the Jaguars? Once again, a 1.5 for the Bills on the over in this. I think this could go either way. I'm going to stick with the Bills. Pure experience. On Sunday, on Fox, we have the 49ers and the Eagles. I like this matchup. It's an argumentative matchup that you could go either way. Eagles have a 5.5-point underspread over and this is your Super Bowl defending champions trying to get back to the Super Bowl. And they got to face, I think, one of the tougher matchups besides the Rams in this wild card weekend. The question is out there, right? I mean, they're trying to make a repeat. They don't look like the same Eagles team that they did back in the Super Bowl, although they finished off 11-6, but the 49ers finished off 12-5. Jalen Hurts is only one of 3 quarterbacks this season in the season's playoffs who has won a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford are to name the others. Others have Brock Purdy, and which he lost in his appearance. That was against the Chiefs. Well, it wasn't Brock Purdy, it was Jimmy Garoppolo. But he lost his only Super Bowl appearance. You know, his shot was another one as he derailed 3 years ago when he injured his elbow in the NFC Championship. So 49ers are looking to bounce back in this one. I think their momentum has, with Christian McCaffrey, I think they're excited. They're motivated. I am going to take a long shot and predict that the 49ers will go on and win. On Sunday night, we see the Chargers and the Patriots. And this is where not a biased opinion. I want the Chargers to win. But in order for the Chargers to win, a lot of things have to go their way. And one is the protection of Justin Herbert with their offensive line. I know that seems like a repetitive statement to say about every NFL team, but you got to remember, Herbert's still dealing with that broken hand. This team, they were able to make it to the playoffs with 11-6, but you're going up against an MVP candidate in Drake May. And I feel like Patriots are reclaiming their position in the AFC East. This is your future quarterback, and it starts right here in the playoff mode, in the playoff opportunity. And, I'm not saying that Drake May is the next Tom Brady, but I feel like the outcome of this, not just this game, but this playoff run with New England, is going to give you an idea of what the Patriots are headed into. I like the Patriots in this one. I'm going to choose the Patriots in this one. They are out there on the other side of the country, right? From Inglewood, California, where it's maybe been raining, maybe, windy, but Foxborough is cold. It's malicious. I don't think anyone wants to play in Foxborough during the wintertime. And unless you live and are on one of those teams, you struggle playing there. So I got the Patriots. And then Monday night game on ABC, we have the Texans taking on the Steelers. And I like the Steelers in this one, but Aaron Rodgers is going to have to play the short pass game. Their concern is being able to get that ball down the field. It's very short, collective, and transpired when you compare that to what the Texans can do. They're also all over the place. So I'm riding the Mike Tomlin tail, not jumping on any bandwagons here, but I'm just riding the tail with Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin. I don't think that they'll be able to have what it takes to get out to a postseason, or to get out to a Super Bowl, but they have what it takes to at least beat the Houston Texans. It's at home also. And so I think this one's going to be the Steelers in this one. So I got the Rams, the Bears, Bills, the 49ers, the Patriots, and the Steelers all advancing to the next round. I am interested in hearing what you guys think, what you guys predict, who's going to advance. Leave me a comment in below. And that is my weekly getting you guys prepped up for the weekend. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. That is all the time I have. Hope everyone's had a safe and fun weekend. I know, so everyone's been sick at my household. We've just been putting out, we got the kids some, scooters and hoverboards. The weather's going to be nice this weekend. Going to let them ride out and let them go ride their hoverboards and whatnot and just have themselves a good weekend. That is all the time I have for you for our show. Want to thank everyone for tuning in and for checking us out. We'll be back Monday, 7 p.m. Tune us in whether you guys are watching us on our social media pages, YouTube account, or listening to us on our audio platforms. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, have those notifications on for us. Follow us and all of that stuff. Can't do it without you. Enjoy your rest of your week. And until Monday, you guys have a good weekend. Take care.